You know, when you drive around, especially this time of year, it's impossible not to get completely immersed in the visual spectacle.
Oh, absolutely. All the Christmas lights.
Yeah, exactly. The dazzling lights. The pastor shared that even in his own area, Whitestone, there are these houses that are just, famous for their sheer extravagance.
Turning entire blocks into a light show.
Right. And you look at it and your first reaction is just, it's pure wonder.
But then, almost immediately, that other thought hits you. It's the one that kind of breaks the romance, isn't it? You look at that mesmerizing display and you just think, the electricity bill must be astronomical.
Exactly. And seeing the crowds and everything, it really brings up a core question that the message challenged us with this week.
Which is?
Why do we celebrate Christmas so extravagantly every year? With all the gifts, the trees, the carols, all of it creating these beautiful, cozy memories.
But we let the real meaning just pass us by.
We just let it pass us by so often.
It really forces you to ask a deeper question about the substance of it all. I mean, have we reduced Christmas to just entertainment? Or a public holiday? Or maybe just a sentimental gathering that warms our hearts for a little bit?
And then we just shelve it until next year.
Exactly. But the source material we're diving into argues that Christmas is far more existential than that.
Far more existential. And why is that?
Because it's a historical event. I mean, it's the undeniable event where God personally entered into our reality. And Scripture gives us a powerful foundational word right from Isaiah 7, Immanuel.
And that's a word we hear all the time, right? It sounds almost like a cliche you'd see on a Christmas card.
It does. But the message makes it so clear that its meaning goes so much deeper than just simple sentiment.
Okay, so what is that deeper meaning?
Well, Immanuel literally means God is with us. But the message reminds us this isn't just a sweet phrase. This is a word that shakes the entire world.
Shakes the world.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it purely from a human perspective, this level of personal, radical, divine presence is something we could never, ever understand or expect on our own.
Okay, let's unpack that then, this core concept of presence.
Yeah.
Because the word Immanuel, it immediately throws this heavy, searching question at us, doesn't it?
It does.
If God were to enter into your reality, the specific reality of your life right now, would you be willing to genuinely receive him?
And defining that reality is so essential. Because I think we often imagine God entering a sort of sanitized, perfect version of our lives.
The highlight reel, right.
Exactly, the highlight reel. But the reality God enters it's messy. It's the central, inescapable location of our everyday existence.
Right. It's the stuff we're dealing with in the trenches every single day. The message detailed it so well. The nagging conflicts in our families that just won't resolve.
The exhaustion we feel, the disappointment.
Yeah, the discouragement at work that just chips away at you. The health anxieties for ourselves, for people we love.
And, all the endless, unspoken worries and burdens that just press down on our hearts and shoulders.
That is the reality God personally entered.
And this is so critical because it clarifies the nature of God's presence. God is not someone who's just watching from a distant, perfectly managed heaven. He's one who enters the very center of our lives.
Like he did with Job.
Precisely. When Job was suffering, God didn't send a postcard. He came directly into the storm Job was enduring.
But we have this tendency to manage that presence, don't we? It's like we treat God like a highly respected but temporary visitor.
We absolutely do. We harbor those subconscious feelings. God, welcome, it's great to have you, but please don't stay too long.
Or permanently feels a little burdensome.
Yes. Or be with me, but only in the good moments. Only when my life is Instagram ready, when I'm feeling pious or looking respectable.
It's like we want an occasional mentorship session, not full-time cohabitation.
Exactly. And that distinction is so convicting because the truth of Christmas just fundamentally overturns that assumption.
Yeah.
God does not come as a stranger who's waiting for us to tidy up.
He comes as the Lord of our lives.
Yes. He is present in our joy and our sorrow, in our success and our failure. And this is key, even in our deepest imperfection. His presence is a continuous invitation. He asks us, will you choose to remain with me and rejoice with me in every circumstance?
That is a huge commitment, moving from God as a house guest to God as the landlord who owns the building. So what does that reception look like when we're feeling dark or ashamed?
It looks like honesty. It looks like refusing to hide the mess. A house guest only sees the clean entryway, right? But the Lord sees the whole structure.
Yeah.
He sees the cracked foundation, the leaky pipes.
And the freedom comes in realizing he came because the house was falling apart.
That's it. Welcoming him in our most unpleasant states as the beginning of the transformation.
This is where it gets really crucial, because to understand the disruptive nature of Immanuel, we have to look back at its origin in Isaiah chapter 7.
We associate the word with a quiet, serene nativity scene, but the historical context was anything but peaceful.
No, not at all. The setting was one of extreme geopolitical crisis. And this wasn't just some skirmish on the border. King Ahaz of Judah and the entire nation were facing an existential threat.
A coalition of two major enemy powers, Syria and the northern kingdom of Israel.
And they were forming an alliance specifically to wipe Judah off the map, to depose the king.
So this was imminent, total destruction. The source describes their fear so vividly, their hearts shook like trees of the forest trembling in the wind.
What an image. It just captures that feeling of total, uncontrollable instability.
And in that terrifying moment, when Ahaz is probably scrambling to make his own desperate alliances, God speaks. And the command is so profoundly counterintuitive.
Be still.
Be still, do not be afraid. And then he offers the sign. Look, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Immanuel.
And that context gives us the key truth. Immanuel is not a name given in peaceful or successful times.
It is grace given in the absolute midst of crisis, paralyzing fear and instability. God doesn't wait for your problems to be solved to show up. He declares the opposite.
He says even when the circumstances are chaotic and the problems are unresolved, God is already with us.
That connects so directly to our lives today, doesn't it? We're holding on to Immanuel when we're shaken by instability at work, or wounded by conflict, or overwhelmed by a terrible health diagnosis.
Or when we're just barely able to breathe under the weight of fear.
Exactly. The presence of the problem doesn't negate the presence of God. That's the realization. The presence of Immanuel is the declaration that God has already entered your situation.
In that focus on perspective, it shifts everything. Let's look at the specific instruction God gives King Ahaz in verse 4. He says, be careful, keep calm, and don't be afraid. Do not lose heart because of these two smoldering stubs of firewood.
We really need to graft the insight here into God's perspective.
Yeah.
Ahaz saw two gigantic, overwhelming armies ready to crush him.
He was facing towering mountains of fear.
Yes. But the pastor pointed out that before God, those looming threats, those overwhelming fears, are nothing more than smoke rising from a burned-out twig.
So wait, the biggest stressor in my life, my career crisis, my financial fear, God, is saying that what feels like an immovable mountain to me is just a wisp of smoke.
The disconnect is precisely the point. Our perspective is limited, right? We see the overwhelming height of the mountain. God's perspective is eternal. He sees the end of those threats. He's essentially saying, the thing you were terrified of is already ash. It has no future.
That calls us to continually shift our hearts toward God's perspective, to stop lending power to the burned out twigs.
What a powerful visual. And if we truly confess that Immanuel's real, that God is with us on that grand scale, it has to fundamentally transform the direction of our lives.
It can't just be a theological term we tuck away on a shelf.
No, it becomes a power that manifests in our hearts and our actions. Our default way of life, as the message described it, is so often filled with competition and envy, comparison and jealousy.
We're constantly trying to justify ourselves by making sure we're a little better than the person next to us.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is how Immanuel just overturns that. When we truly rejoice in the fact that God is with us, that we're already sufficient, already loved, the need for that cutthroat calculation and greed it gets replaced.
And
instead, warm compassion and love begin to flow from us like a fragrance.
It changes our internal impulse. We stop treating each other like competitors.
That should be the automatic shift. But the message also addressed a really harsh reality, the difficulty of finding that kind of love in the church today. The observation was that instead of compassion and unity, we so often see under the name of faith, criticism, mockery, condemnation, and division.
And the message noted that sometimes it seems even worse than the world. That pattern, that relentless criticism is described as the very opposite of Immanuel.
So it creates this paradox. Why does God keep proclaiming Immanuel to us when we're so broken?
Because the truth is, no matter how hard we try to be good on our own, all hope is found in God alone.
That shifts the burden, doesn't it? Immanuel is our living hope because it doesn't demand our perfection first. God is with us not because we're already lovable, but because he chooses to walk with us in our weakness.
And he's continually planting seeds of love and justice right there in our failure.
And this brings us to the real strength of the message. Immanuel becomes real through action. And it doesn't have to be grand or impressive.
It's about small, concrete steps of obedience.
Exactly. It looks like choosing small acts of justice in unjust situations. It looks like extending our hands to neighbors who are suffering. And crucially, it looks like laying down our anger in condemnation to actively choose reconciliation and forgiveness.
It's through those choices that the promise is made tangible.
That's absolutely right. And this gives us a realistic hope. Within our present brokenness, he patiently guides love and justice and peace to grow little by little. The seed continues to grow.
So as you move past the holiday season, the true practice of Immanuel really begins with those small daily choices.
The ultimate definition given in the message just sums it up so beautifully. Immanuel is God's good character coming alive within our lives. When mercy overflows within us and love flows through us, that is Immanuel.
It moves Immanuel from being just a historical event to a living, daily presence.
Exactly. It's God's living presence alive and moving in our daily lives, through our hands and feet, within our hearts. So the challenging and inspiring question for us this week is this. If God is truly with us, where is he asking you to stop seeing towering mountains and start seeing merely smoldering stubs of firewood so that you can walk forward in peace? May we all live out the promise and blessing of Immanuel clearly and vividly in the very places where our lives unfold.